Welcome to Rob on Holiday. This week we're in the Swiss city of Geneva. We're going to be taking a look around the old town, the newer parts of town, and around the lake, of course, and see what there is to do. So let's get stuck in right now. Set on the shores of Lake Geneva, Geneva is Switzerland's second largest city and is known as the capital of peace due to being home to numerous organisations such as the UN and the Red Cross. Our visit to Geneva lasted just over 36 hours, but we still managed to explore many of the city's top tourist attractions. We landed at Geneva Airport at around 10 AM after a 1.5 hour flight from Manchester. Geneva Airport is connected to the city centre via train. Once you get to the arrivals hall after collecting your luggage, the way to the train station is signposted. We're just at the airport in Geneva, and if you stay at a hotel in Geneva, it's fantastic because you get a pass that's valid for the train, bus, boats and trams. So we're going to get a train from the airport to Geneva. Should take 5 or 6 minutes. I'll just double check with the guard, and it's true, if you've got your Geneva pass, so you're staying at a hotel, you can get on the train. As he pointed out, only to Geneva, because of course it's only valid in the Geneva canton, the Geneva area, but lots of trains going to here, there and everywhere in Switzerland and France. But as long as you get on one that goes through Geneva, get off there, you're okay. You will receive an email a few days before you are due to arrive in Geneva, inviting you to redeem your free transport pass. All you have to do is click on the link, fill in a short form and print your pass. The Geneva transport system is based on trust, so you are unlikely to be asked to show your pass during your visit, but it's best to keep it with you just in case. Your transport pass covers all buses, trains and trams in Geneva, as well as the yellow Mouette boats. The train to the city centre took less than 10 minutes, and after checking into our hotel and grabbing a quick McDonald's for lunch, we were ready to start exploring. We're starting our visit down by the lake with a beautiful jet d'eau behind us there. Now the lake is actually called Lac Le Mans, but obviously most people know it as Lake Geneva because it's right next to Geneva. First of all, before we get on with our tour of Geneva, a couple of things you need to know when visiting here in Switzerland. Now obviously, being the banking capital of the world, everywhere takes cards, it's no problem, but I always like to carry a bit of cash. So Swiss francs, not euros. You might be able to change your euros here, but the currency is Swiss francs. Very colourful 20 there. And secondly, they're also different on the electricity supply to the rest of Europe. So you need a special 3-prong plug. I mean, we got these from Amazon. It's about £7 for 2, so worth getting one of these if you come to Switzerland. Anyway, with those out of the way, let's get on with the tour of Geneva. Now, our hotel is in the new part of Geneva. We're crossing the Pont Mont Blanc here, just by the Jet d'Eau, and heading out over to the Old Town. There's a lot to see in the Old Town, so we're going to head across there, wander through the streets and show you the sights. Before heading to the Old Town, we couldn't resist spending a few minutes by the lake, taking in the beautiful scenery and seeing some of the local wildlife. The walk to the Old Town is quite steep in areas, but you should be fine as long as you're in reasonable health. And the good news is that once you get to the top of the hill, all the sites in the Old Town are very close to one another. Okay, we just walked up from Lake Geneva, up through the Old Town, got past the shops in the New Town. You get through some nice streets, Swiss flags and regional flags hanging over the road, really nice, cobbled streets. And this is the Cathedral of St. Peter, Saint-Pierre. I'm going to go in there now. As far as I understand, it's free, although you do have to pay 5 Swiss francs to climb the tower, which 2 of us are hoping to do soon. So let's go and have a look inside the cathedral. The construction of this Gothic cathedral began around 1160 and has belonged to the Reformed Church since the 16th century. The cathedral is fairly plain on the inside, although it's still worth a quick visit, especially considering it's free. If you don't mind climbing stairs, I would recommend paying the 7 Swiss francs to climb the cathedral tower. Not only is the tower one of the most architecturally interesting areas of the building inside, but the view from the top is amazing. Before leaving the cathedral area, make sure you check out the view from the courtyard just outside. After a quick drink at a cafe in the Place de Bourg de Fort, we took a stroll up the Rue de l'Hôtel de Ville to our next stop, the Old Arsenal. Under the archways of the building you'll find 5 cannons and several intricate murals depicting key periods in the city's history. This is a great little spot in the old town at Geneva. It's called the Arsenal, some cannons here and some great frescoes on the wall there. But there is another thing I wanted to point out that I think looks really photogenic. Just come this way to the street on the side here. It's really nice. You know you're in Geneva because you've got the Swiss flags, the regional flags, and also there's a couple of United Nations flags as well there. But it looks great down the street there with the flags. Love that. Now, this is the Maison Tavel. It's a museum in the centre of Geneva Old Town, which is free. But what's interesting is there's something that's really good to see on the 6th floor. So the advice is go straight up to the 6th floor. Let's go. The Maison Tavel is home to the Museum of Urban History and Daily Life. If this subject interests you, I'm sure you could spend several hours exploring all the exhibits. But we were on a time budget and we'd come here to see one thing in particular, the model of Geneva's Old Town on the top floor. Our next sightseeing spot was just through this stone archway. The place may look like just another viewpoint, but it has a unique claim to fame. Now then, how many times does it happen that you're out for a walk, maybe in a walk for a couple of miles, and your legs are really tired, and you come to a park and you see a bench, the last seat on the bench, and someone gets it just before you get there? Well, it's not going to be a problem here in Geneva because they've got the longest bench in the world. And there's always plenty of room. From the longest bench, if you head down the hill to your left, you will come to one of the most impressive sites in Geneva, the Reformation Wall. The Reformation Wall commemorates the leaders of the Reformation movement in Europe in the 16th century. Now, I have to say this is really impressive. This is the Reformation Wall in Geneva and it celebrates John Calvin and the other Reformationists. What's really good about this, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. It's like the giant statues carved with the wall, but it's the size of it. I don't know, it's about 100 metres long or so maybe. It's really impressive to stand up close and have a read of the writing on there. Now, this is where most people will probably stop their tour of Geneva's Old Town. However, my pre-trip research had uncovered a hidden gem beyond the Reformation Wall. I've just been watching the skaters here in the Plan de Pan Palais. It's a really modern concrete construction and keep kids and teenagers really busy with the bikes and scooters. But what I really like about this is really modern. And if you just turn this way, just walk over here, this is a statue of Frankenstein's monster. Now, of course, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein in Geneva, and the story, some of it, or at least some of it, maybe all of it, is set in Geneva. What I really like about this statue is, you see loads of statues of kings, queens, generals, politicians, really famous people, but to have one of Frankenstein's monster, a literary creation, I think that's really good. And it's an absolutely unique statue. Just look at the detail on it. We'd been up since 3 AM to catch our flight, so we decided that a few hours rest back at the hotel were in order. This is actually something I would recommend you do on any city break as it helps you feel refreshed for the evening. A few hours later we were ready to experience Geneva by night. After enjoying a lovely pizza at the Ristorante Boccadesi, we headed straight for the lake. We didn't know this when we booked our trip, but we just happened to be visiting Geneva on one of the days of the year when the Jet d'eau is illuminated in bright colours. We're down by the Lake Geneva shoreline on a Saturday night and we're really lucky because it's not every day or every week that the Jet d'eau is lit up. But today, the last day of September, I think it's World Old People's Day or something, and they've chosen the red and yellow colours to light the Jet d'eau up, and it looks absolutely spectacular out here on the lake. It's really nice. We're so lucky with the weather. It's been really warm today in the 20s. And it's just a great way to end Saturday night. Just one on a mouette, which is the small boats that go back and forward across the lake, which incidentally are also included in your Geneva hotel pass. All the buses, trams, boats, and been past the Jet d'eau. Really great. Day 2 in Geneva, and we've just stepped outside our hotel, which is facing the main railway station, but also it's facing the Basilica Notre Dame behind us here. And you're also getting a view of a tram. There are loads of trams in Geneva. Our second and final day in Geneva began with a trip to Starbucks, where we were reminded once again just how expensive food in Geneva really is. In fact, here's a little compilation we made to demonstrate how much things will cost on your trip. Water, 4 francs. Bottle of Coke, 5.50. One beer, 6 francs. Fondue, 24 francs 50 per person. Ice cream, 4.50. And you think Starbucks is expensive in the UK? Small pumpkin spice latte,
£8.50. That's pretty much double the UK price.
This is an unusual thing to visit on a tourist visit to a city. It's actually residential housing, but what we're going to see is called Le Schtroumpfs, or the Smurf House. And it's an architectural set of houses built in the 80s, but it's like inspired by the Smurf houses from the Belgian cartoon, but also the works of Gaudi in Barcelona. It's going to be interesting walking around the buildings, having a look. Let's check it out. The Smurf houses are by no means a must-see on your trip to Geneva, but they are interesting to look at if you have some extra time to fill. So now we're going to visit the Palace of Nations, one of the UN headquarters, the United Nations. And we're going to get there on a tram, and I just wanted to mention the trams especially. The transport system here in Geneva, it really is superb. We've already mentioned that if you stay in a hotel in Geneva, you get a pass emailed to you which gives you access to all the various transport options in Geneva. And it's all based on a trust-based system, so a tram comes along, you literally step on, there's no ticket machines or anything. However you buy tickets or whether you get a free pass, you just walk on and walk off at your stop. I think you have to carry the pass with you on your mobile phone just in case ticket inspector gets on, but we've not seen one yet. It's just such an easy system to use, and there are so many trams that I think we're going to be at the UN Palace of Nations within 5 or 10 minutes. The tram journey from Geneva train station to the UN takes just 10 minutes. The tram drops you off right outside the main gates, where you can see the iconic line of flags leading up to the main building and the United Nations sign. This is the United Nations Palace of Justice in Geneva. Obviously the UN is headquartered in New York, but there are 3 major centres outside of New York. This is one of them in Geneva, the others being in Nairobi and Vienna. There are lots of UN organisations based here in Geneva. For example, the World Health Organization, who've been in the news obviously a lot because of the COVID crisis. They are based here in Geneva. The International Red Cross are also based here. And well, we're not going in the Palace of Justice today, but you can see it behind me. It's well worth visiting. Outside the United Nations Palace of Nations is an installation work of art. It's a 3-legged chair, and it's a protest against landmines and cluster munitions. I think it's quite a statue that makes you think about what it represents. It's a very popular place with tourists taking photos, but obviously thinking about what it represents, please be respectful when you come here. And if you do visit the palace, make sure you walk round the corner in this direction, because there's a statue that is worthwhile seeing. Let's go and have a look. If you head around the corner from the UN entrance, you will come across a little grassy area leading to the Ariana Museum and a statue of Mahatma Gandhi. And before we left the UN area, there was one more place I wanted to visit. Now here's another organisation based in Geneva, the World Intellectual Property Organisation. So these are the guys that if you've invented something or you've got a patent or something that's unique, maybe it's going to make you some money, these are the guys who are going to look after this. Now while we've come up here, it's interesting because there's a lovely, well, couple of statues of 2 bronze cheetahs here, and I was just reading the plaque. So this was opened in 1995 to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Patent Cooperation Treaty. Now, I don't know why they've chosen the cheetahs, I genuinely don't know, but I've walked away and it's just occurred to me that it's quite ironic that cheetahs are associated with the World Patent Organisation, because cheetahs are going to try and get their hands on your intellectual property. But anyway, nice statue. A quick tram ride later and we were back outside our hotel, so we took the opportunity to freshen up before checking out and heading to lunch. One thing everyone had recommended we try while in Switzerland was the famous fondue. So, we did just that at the Grappe d'Or restaurant. I enjoyed the fondue but found it a bit rich for an entire meal, so I'd recommend getting just one between a larger group to try. Just bear in mind that most restaurants will charge you for a minimum of 2 portions regardless of who is eating. You may have noticed that we've only briefly mentioned Lake Geneva so far in this video, but that is because we wanted to finish our trip with a sunny afternoon by the lake. First we headed to Port Wilson and sat on the rocks nearby. I would highly recommend this as the quieter alternative to sitting at the water's edge at the Banc de Paquis. It was amazing to see just how clear the water is up close. It's a nice spot by Lake Geneva here. Just had a fondue meal, very strong tasting cheese, so a bit of Swiss chocolate just to sweeten it. Very pleasant view by the lake. One of our favourite areas around Lake Geneva was the Bain de Paquis, a small pier lined with beach and rock areas where people are allowed to swim in the lake. We didn't do this, but we did enjoy our walk down the pier and up to the lighthouse. It looks like a great place to hang out while in Geneva, particularly on warmer days.
So this is the Bain de Paquis, and this is a really interesting place because for us it's a nice walk. You go over a little bridge, it's like a stone jetty out to the lighthouse at the end. But if you look at the locals here, it's fantastic. You've got some cygnets here, kids are liking that. The water is so clear, and you can see there's like a platform there where people obviously are swimming in the lake. Swim over to the platform, you can just lounge about on the platform. Now about this for the little kids, look at that, a slide. Water slide into that. This is really nice. This is the 1st of October. So yeah, we got lucky with the weather again. I'm sure the locals are thinking the same thing, but it's probably a great place to spend an afternoon here if you're in Geneva and the weather's nice. So here on the Bain de Paquis, it's probably as good a place as any to give you a quick orientation of Geneva. So out on the eastern end of the lake, you can see the Jet d'Eau there. And on the eastern side, that's where the old town is. You can see the Cathedral. I was going to say the Twin Towers. You can only see one of the towers from this angle, but that's the Cathedral there of Saint-Pierre, just on the hill that the old town's up slightly higher. Now the River Rhone runs out the south side of Lake Geneva down there, and on the western side, you've got, this is where our hotel is. It's kind of like the newer area of the town. There's nothing special about it. It's more of a functional place. You've got McDonald's, Starbucks, the train station. And say the old town on the other side is nice for a walk around, but you can see how well Geneva's laid out. It's such a great place for the tourists because there's lots of different elements to it. Okay, next we're going to take Mouette, which is the little yellow boat, and I keep saying if you're staying at a hotel in Geneva, it's free on your transport pass. So we're going to walk down there, take a Mouette across the other side of the lake, and go out on the stone pier where the Jet d'Eau is. This should be interesting.
We'd seen the Jet d'Eau from many different angles, but always from a distance, so we decided to take another Mouette across the lake to rectify this.
So of course this is a big attraction in Geneva, the Jet d'Eau. It was actually built in 1886 to relieve pressure at a hydraulic pumping station, but it proved so popular that they relocated it as a permanent attraction in 1891. Now the current system has this fantastic pumping system on it. It gives the Jet d'Eau a height of 140 metres at the top. There's 500 litres of water a second coming out of the pumping system at 200 kilometres an hour. To be honest, it's more spectacular seeing it in person than when you see it on a video. But you're going to have to watch it on the video, but of course come and see it, it's worth seeing. It's the iconic attraction here in Geneva, the Jet d'Eau.
You can walk right out to the Jet d'Eau and get so close that you can feel the mist from the water on your face.
On the jetty, about 50 metres from the Jet d'Eau here, I've decided to take my hat off because the jet is creating a bit of a crosswind and you're already getting some of the water spray coming back here, which on a day like this is fantastic, just a nice breeze with the water hitting you. So we'll walk a bit further along, see if it gets any heavier, the water.
We were coming to the end of our time in Geneva, but we just had time to visit 2 more tourist sites. First, there's the Jardin Anglais, where you find the famous flower clock. And finally, on our way back to the train station, we walked by the Brunswick Monument, a monument commemorating the life of Charles II, the Duke of Brunswick.
So what are my thoughts about Geneva? Well, as with a lot of city breaks, I've really enjoyed this. We've only actually come for one night, but we packed a lot in because we had most of Saturday and most of today, Sunday. Is that enough to come to Geneva? Well, it depends on what you want to see. We have certainly filled the time. And it's also, before I start talking about what I like about Geneva and what maybe I didn't like, it's also worth mentioning there's a couple of things that we didn't do that if you were staying here for longer that you could certainly do. CERN, which is where the Large Hadron Collider is based just down the road here in the Geneva area. We've seen lots of trams and buses that you can get that go direct to CERN, so that's certainly worth looking at and visiting if you're coming here. The other thing is Mont Celeb is a cable car system just up the mountain over there. You get a bus or two out of the city and towards the base of the mountain, and you got this very steep cable car. And I've seen videos of it when you're looking down on the area of Geneva and the lake. It's a wonderful view. So there's 2 different things you could certainly do. And as for the city itself, I think there's plenty to do. Most of the great stuff is in the old town. Yesterday we went in the Cathedral. The cathedral itself is more like a large church, but what really makes it special is the 7 francs each you pay to walk up the tower. You got some very steep stone steps where you get to walk through the roof system. You can see the wooden joists and the inside of the roof, the tiling. And then when you get out onto the north tower, as a panoramic view, you can see Lake Geneva, the jet d'eau, and also just looking down on all the buildings around the old town of Geneva. It's really interesting. So that would be my number 1 tip. I also really enjoyed seeing the Reformation Wall, which is something absolutely unique. It's a huge stone work of art, if you like, with lots of figures carved into it, and you stand next to it and it's really impressive. And then of course there's the lake itself. What's really good about Geneva is it's like there's things based on the lake and things based on the old town. The lake today, we've had a walk out to see the lighthouse, and right round the other side near the jet d'eau, we walked out right up to the jet d'eau. And of course the transport system in Geneva is absolutely fantastic. I have to say it's the best we've seen on any city visit we've been on, simply because if you stay at a hotel in Geneva, you get the transport pass included. That means you can use buses, trams, and the little mouette boats that take you across the lake. And also coming to and from the airport, it's only a 6 or 7 minute train ride, but that's included on the pass as well. So overall, it's a fantastic place and lots to do. Now, of course, the one big disadvantage is here in Switzerland, it is eye-wateringly expensive. Just to give you a few ideas, 4 of us went for a pizza last night, a pizza and just a simple soft drink each. You're talking about nearly £100. McDonald's, again, 4 of us had lunch, a meal each, 60 francs or £60. Starbucks this morning, we all had just a cake and a coffee, 55 francs, which is over 50 quid. It is really expensive. But, you know, you pay your money, you take your choice. There's certainly a lot to do here in Geneva, and I definitely recommend you putting it on your list. Thanks for watching Rob on Holiday. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. It really helps the channel, and keep an eye on the channel for more great videos.